In this video, I'll be sharing tips on how you can ace the IELTS test, that is the general training test, which is one of the requirements for the Canadian Express entry. Hi guys, welcome back. This is a continuation of the video I made on how to ace IELTS in one sitting. So sit back and enjoy the video. The third module, speaking. Now for speaking, you be speaking to an examiner. Yeah, I understand that now with COVID, I understand that the method has changed a bit, but the concept is still the same. You are talking to an examiner. Part one is just a general introduction. You get about 3 minutes to talk about yourself, introduce yourself, talk about where you live, talk about what you do, your workplace and all that. It's just a brief opportunity for you to, express yourself. And I'm telling you, that part one is really important because it gives the examiner an opportunity to know who you are, right? So you are free to use all sorts of words. You are free to use all sorts of sentences. And I bet you, if you do well in that first part, the examiner would most likely give you a very good score. Part two is the part where you'll be given a card with a topic, and you get to talk about that topic. In this part, you get 1 minute to think about the topic, and you get 2 minutes to talk about the topic, right? Just 2 minutes. 1 minute to think and 2 minutes to talk. In the third part is where you hold a conversation with the examiner, because the examiner will now ask you questions about the topic and you get to respond. So you get to have a conversation in the third part. And for this part, you get about 4 to 5 minutes to actually speak. Now, here are the tips. The first one is build your confidence. Trust me, if you're not confident, it has a way of showing in the way you speak, right? I know the examiner is not marking your confidence. The examiner is there to see your command of the language, the structure you use, the kind of vocabulary you use and all that. But your confidence has a way of affecting the way you speak. And if you're not so confident, you might see yourself, not even making sense in what you're saying. And trust me, the examiner wants you to make sense, right? Build your confidence. You can take your time to talk to yourself, plan how you would talk, right? Talk to yourself in the mirror, talk to people in English, right? It helps. Tip number 2 is to plan your introduction. In fact, plan, right? Because we already know that the part 1 of the IELTS speaking test is some sort of introduction, right? You can plan it. Yes, you can learn, you can know what you are going to say in your speaking test, especially the introduction part. Plan it, right? I'm not saying you should cram. I'm not saying you should, you should go and look for something online. No. Just plan it. For example, you know that you get to talk about yourself. You get to maybe talk about where you live, the distance from where you live to where you are taking the test, the distance from where you live to where you work and all that. Make sure you have something to say. And the only way that you will have something to say is to have, planned what you're going to say. For example, if you're talking to an examiner, you should already, it's not at that point that you now start thinking of, what is the distance of where I live to this place? What is the distance of where I live to my workplace? What kind of house do I live? Is it a 2-bedroom flat? It shouldn't be that moment that you start planning, thinking about it. But once you've planned it, you know that, okay, once I get to the examiner and it's the introduction stage, I'll tell the examiner my name, I'll tell them the kind of place I live, the kind of area it is, the distance to where I'm taking the test, distance to my workplace. I'll tell them what I do, the kind of job I do, It's just good to have planned it. And I tell you, if you've planned what you're going to say and you have a structure of how you're going to say it, it will come out better than just freestyling at that moment. My third tip is to let it flow. I know that I said you should plan what you're going to say, but that usually works with the, with the first part, which you know that you are going to be introducing yourself, right? You know that's the first part, so you can plan that. How about the part 2? How about the second section of the test where they will give you a random card where you don't even know, you have no idea what the topic would be, right? Now, that is the part where you have to let your imagination come to play. I have a strategy for this part, right? And I'm not sure where I found that strategy. Probably on one of the YouTube videos I've seen when I was preparing for the test. I don't know, but I'll put links in the description box where you can also go to and watch and maybe learn, right? Because of course I'm not an English teacher. And I'll also advise you to check out IELTSLease.com. IELTSLease is one website I use that I can say has all the information you might require, to do well in this test. The tip I want to share with you is the past, present, future. Now, when you get that card, right, that talks that card with a topic, use this formula: past, present, future. Now, when you see the topic, think about something in the past that relates to that topic, right? Think about it. I mentioned earlier that you get 1 minute to think, right? So immediately you see the topic, make a mental note of something in the past, right? Make a mental note of something in the present day, and make a mental note of a future event that relates to that topic. This way, you get a lot of things to say about that topic, and before you know it, you've spoken so much that your time is up. This method helps you to talk extensively. I remember my first IELTS test, for the speaking test, the topic they gave me was to talk about an electronic device in my house that I'm really interested in. And if you really know me, you would see that this is something I'm really interested in. I like gadgets, I like tech, right? So it was just so easy, but I still used this method: past, present, future. How did I do it? So I just told the man, while growing up, I had always wished I could, lay my hands on very interesting gadgets. I've always been enthusiastic about technology, right? And at the time, my dad had a Panasonic TV. It was very interesting that I was the only one in our house that used to operate that TV. Whenever my dad wants to change the TV station, I'm the first person to get up to do the switch for him. Right, that is past. Then I said, for the present, and currently I have an Android TV box. At the time I had an Android TV box in my house, which I used to watch Netflix, YouTube and the likes. And I talked about that. Then for future, I said, I'd like to see a time whereby I don't need an Android TV box, to watch YouTube, to watch Netflix on my TV and all that. And I believe there's already technology for that. I know smart TVs are now coming up and all that. And that was what I did. In that test, I had 8 in speaking. Right, I had 8 because I spoke extensively. Now, I know some of you would say, you were lucky, you got the topic that you're interested in. Yeah, I was lucky in that first test. But in the second test, I can't remember what I got because it wasn't something interesting to me. But I used that same method, the past, present, and future method. And it worked fine. I just thought about the topic. I think it was something about science or biology or something that, I spoke about some way I've heard of that terminology before in the past, right? Then I now spoke about, oh, this terminology. Now I believe some people are learning it in school. Then I know it has to do with the human body. I know there are some new diseases that have been discovered about it and all that. Then I said, oh, in the future I believe that people won't be bothered about this kind of diseases anymore. Just use a method. That's why I said in the beginning of this video that you should master a method, right? Master a method that you would use for each of the models. And in that test, I got 7.5, yeah, which was also very good for me and the top band in speaking, right? Now, the final module, which is writing. I know that writing is one major bottleneck that we all have to surmount. Look, in my first IELTS test I wrote, I had 6.5 in writing. So I knew from that moment that, look, I need to master writing because I must pass it, right? And when I wrote IELTS the second time, I had 7.5 in writing. How did I do it? First thing is I mastered the test format. Look, writing, the test format it has two tasks rather, and you have 60 minutes. Task 1 is usually a letter, so it can be a formal letter or informal letter. And task 1 is just 1/3 of the marks for the test. So you know that you shouldn't really focus too much on task 1. Task 2 is essay writing. Because it carries 2/3 of the whole exam score, you know that you must focus so much on task 2. So that was what I did. I mastered the exam format. So I knew that task 1, I don't need to focus too much on it. It's letter writing. So I just looked for how each type of these letters are supposed to look and what the examiners look out for. Then task 2, I know that, oh, I must focus on this, and I mastered a method to answer it. You know that there are 2 tasks in writing. Task 1 is letter writing, right? Informal letter or formal letter. Now, how do you identify an informal letter and a formal letter? For an informal letter, it's a letter you're writing to your friend. Once the question does not state that the person you're writing that letter to is your friend, just know that you're writing a formal letter. Don't bother about semi-formal. Look, once it is not your friend, know that it is a formal letter you're writing. That cuts it for task 1. Task 2, you know that it's essay writing, so there's no formal or informal. Essay writing is like semi-formal, not so informal, so you won't be using some kind of words, some casual words. You wouldn't be using that, and not too formal where you'll be using maybe professional jargon and all that. So it's midway. Now, here are the tips I have for you for task 1. Task 1 is 150 words. So one thing you must learn, that's my number 1 tip, is that you should master what 150 words look like in your handwriting. Master it. For example, 1 paragraph of letter should be an average of 50 words, right? So you know that in task 1, you cannot afford to write less than 3 paragraphs. No, of course it's a letter. You can't be writing less than 3 paragraphs because the first paragraph should be your introduction, right? The second paragraph should be whatever the letter is about, right? The third paragraph should be some sort of conclusion, right? So you have 3 paragraphs in the minimum. So if what you are writing about, if the question has something that has to do with maybe 2 things or 3 things, you see that now you have an opportunity to even expand and do more than 3 paragraphs, which is more than 150 words. So try and master what 50 words look like in your handwriting, and that should be what you target for each paragraph. The second thing is read the question. Well, it might sound somehow, but some people do not really read the question to understand what the examiner is expecting of them. Now, the task 1 letter writing is usually about maybe you're writing a request letter, or maybe you are complaining about something, That's usually the formal letter. Or maybe you're writing to your friend about something, maybe about your trip, or maybe about your party, maybe about you are writing to your friend about something. So that is informal. Read the question to ascertain what exactly they are asking you to write. The question shouldn't be asking you to write about Christmas, and instead of writing about Christmas, you are writing about the weather, or you are writing about a house, right? If the question is asking you to write to your friend about something you've planned for Christmas, that should be the crux of your letter. That should be what you are talking about in the letter, right? So that's what I mean by read the question and understand it, right? Also, plan your letter. Don't just rush into answering the question. Take some time to plan what you want to write. Take some time to bring up the idea, of what you want to put into your letter. Now, this is where it's important for you to have practiced, because if you haven't practiced, you would not be able to, immediately get into it. You won't immediately adjust into the mood for that letter. But if you've been practicing, so you know that, what I'm looking out for in this question is friend. Once they didn't mention that you are writing the letter to your friend, you know you are writing a formal letter, right? Now, all the letters in IELTS start with dear something. So don't bother about maybe you want to say hello friend, hello, no. It should be dear so, right? And you move on. Now, the task 2 is a discursive essay where you get to write about a topic that is given to you. Now, one major mistake people make is that they just want to write. They want to fill up the answer script without really answering the question. Don't do that. Make sure that you read the question and answer the specific question that was asked. My second thing is, do not use prepared answers. As I mentioned earlier, don't cram. Don't come with something you've prepared before. No, let your ideas flow. The basic rule is that each paragraph should carry one single idea. Do not lump ideas together in a paragraph now. So create a structure. How do you want your essay to look? You remember that this task 2 requires minimum of 250 words. And if you are following the logic we used for task 1, that means you need about 5 paragraphs, right? So you need to really plan it. The question would actually tell you the ideas that are required, or would tell you the number of things that are required. So that would actually determine your number of paragraphs. Your structure should be like introduction, idea 1. So introduction is first paragraph, idea 1 is second paragraph, idea 2, idea 3, right? Then conclusion. Make sure you conclude your essay, right? So introduction, talk about the general thing. Are you in support of the question or are you against it? Write that. That should be your introduction. Now, your points, what you are using to support or whatsoever you are using to oppose, minimum 3 ideas should make up your next 3 paragraphs. And your conclusion, right? What your final submission is about the topic should be your last paragraph. And with that, following the logic I mentioned earlier, 50 words in a paragraph. Once you've written 5 paragraphs in this task 2, you are good. That means you've written 250 words. Trust me, for you to get a high score in writing, you must meet the number of words requirement. And how do you meet the number of words requirement? Make sure you write the appropriate number of paragraphs. Once you do that, you've met that requirement, right? Then the next thing the examiner would look for is your structure, how you write. Make sure there are no grammatical blunders. Right? I know that's difficult, but look, just try. Make sure there are no errors there. Don't use too complex sentences. Be direct. One way of avoiding super complex sentences is to write in the active voice. Don't say the house was built by Herbert Macaulay. You should say Herbert Macaulay built the house, right? Avoid complex sentences by using active voice and all that. It would really help you to write effectively. Now, make sure you communicate your ideas. That's another tip. Communicate clearly. And how can you do this? When you structure your essay such that an idea is in one paragraph, it is easier for whoever is reading, the examiner, to understand what you're saying. Also, let your ideas flow into the next one. So, whenever you're writing, use words like therefore, right? Or firstly, your first idea. Firstly, I would like to say that going to the university affords you an opportunity to learn. Secondly, then you write your idea. Instead of thirdly, you can say furthermore. Those are the kind of, just make sure your ideas flow into the next, and that way you would see that your essay would be readable and would be understandable. I wish you all the best in your test. I'll be announcing a giveaway soon, and please make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell so you can receive notifications whenever I post any video. Thank you very much.